Hi, it's TK with the weekly words of encouragement. As you may recall, we briefly discussed Job's story in the video devotional for It Is Well With My Soul, my favorite hymn. The first verse of this hymn says, "When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul." In that devotional, I pondered whether the man who wrote the hymn, Horatio Spafford, had Job's story in mind when he wrote these words. You may recall that Horatio Spafford penned the hymn soon after losing his 4 daughters in a shipwreck. Can you imagine facing the anguish of losing your children, yet still being able to say, "It is well with my soul"? Well, Job could and did. He said, "The Lord gave me what I have, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord." Both Job and Horatio Spafford offer us this encouragement. In the midst of devastating circumstances and suffering, we can maintain our faith in God. Let's learn more about Job's story. Job was a prosperous man, the wealthiest man in the area where he lived. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters and numerous servants and livestock. More importantly, Job was blameless, a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil. Unbeknownst to Job, something was brewing in the heavenly realm. Satan joined the members of the heavenly court to appear before God. Then the Lord asked Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil." Satan replied to the Lord, "Yes, but Job has good reason to fear God. You have always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You have made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." "All right, you may test him," the Lord said to Satan. "Do whatever you want with everything he possesses, but don't harm him physically." And test Job is exactly what Satan did. Job faced significant devastation, losing all of his children, servants, and livestock in the same day. In response to this devastation, Job tore his robe in grief. Then he shaved his head, but he didn't stop there. He fell to the ground in worship, speaking these words, "I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord." As Dr. Tony Evans notes in his Bible commentary, Job knew where to turn when everything fell apart. Unlike Satan's prediction, Job didn't curse God after Satan wreaked havoc in his life. Instead, Job worshiped God in the midst of his grief. He didn't ignore his grief. He acknowledged it by tearing his clothes and shaving his head. But he didn't let the grief have the final word. He worshiped God. So, Satan returned to the heavenly realm, and God again pointed out Job as blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil, and he has maintained his integrity even though you urged me to harm him without cause. But Satan wasn't satisfied. Satan replied to the Lord, "Skin for skin. A man will give up everything he has to save his life, but reach out and take away his health, and he will surely curse you to your face." "All right, do with him as you please," the Lord said to Satan, "but spare his life." So Satan left the Lord's presence, and he struck Job with terrible boils from head to foot. When Job's trauma continued with the boils, even his wife encouraged him to curse God and die. But Job replied, "Should we accept only good things from the hand of God and never anything bad?" So in all this, Job said nothing wrong. At this point in Job's story, I'm reminded of a verse, and it is well with my soul. Though Satan should buffet, though trials should come, let this blessed assurance control, that Christ hath regarded my helpless estate, and hath shed his own blood for my soul. Satan tried everything in his power to distract Job from worshiping God, but that didn't work. Despite his circumstances, Job cried out, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." As followers of Christ, we must remember that Satan doesn't win. He may try to distract us with trials and challenges, but we can rest in the finished work of Christ on the cross, which secures our salvation for eternity. Back to Job's story. We don't have time to address the many discussions among Job and his friends, Job's speeches about his innocence, or God's one-way discourse with Job, which are covered in chapters 3 through 41. These chapters offer us important reminders about choosing our friends wisely, questioning God, and God's omniscience, omnipotence, and majesty. But the end of Job's story tells us God blessed Job more in the second half of his life than in the beginning. God restored Job's health, wealth, and family. But here's the thing. Job didn't wait to trust God until after God restored him. Rather, Job trusted God in the midst of his losses. Job's faith in God, despite his losses, is an inspiration to us as we endure hardships in our own lives. Though we may face challenges and suffering, yet we can trust God. I pray this devotional blessed you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.